Well, hello everybody. We're back in the podcast studio for the next episode of the Venture Forge podcast. I'm losing track now, but I think we're on episode 5 or 6. 5 or 6,
Yeah.
somewhere around that. I'm sure Whitney would tell us if she was in. Whitney, our wonderful marketing manager. But we're here today with a topic of growth on Amazon, your 2026 plan. And I can't believe yet another year has come around. I found myself last week actually Googling what year is it, because time seems to be passing that fast. That's genuine truth. I've got lost track. I found
What is
myself
the year?
2026. Yeah, it's literally, I've written this down so I can't get it wrong. But for those of you that are new to our podcast, I'm Andy Banks. I'm the CEO of Venture Forge and I host the Venture Forge podcast. We're an Amazon agency that helps brands become more commercially successful on Amazon, whether that's seller, led by the wonderful Emma, whether that's vendor, led by the wonderful Trav, or our ads department run by the equally wonderful Mike. We help brands do more on Amazon and become much more commercially successful at it. That's enough about me though, guys. I'm joined by 3 wonderful guests this morning. Where shall we go next? Let's go random. Travis, you got the eye line. Would you like to introduce yourself and say hello?
No, thanks a lot, Andy, and good to be back. Yeah, 5th, 6th episode, clocking along really nicely. So I'm Travis, I'm head of vendor. I actually had my 1-year anniversary a week ago. So yeah, like time's ticking along really nicely, really been enjoying it. I've been in the Amazon game going on 6-7 years now, although it doesn't feel like that. Started my career at Amazon health and personal care beauty team before moving into pharmaceuticals and then moving into the agency side of things where, yeah, I head up the vendor services side of things. We're a very talented team internally. So yeah, looking forward to speaking today.
Are you missing working at Amazon?
No. I think I've got a great haircut, but once it all goes away like that, it's just really well disguised. I lost a lot of hair, gained a lot of stress, and I do not miss it. A lot happier in the agency side of things.
Fantastic. Thank you, Trav. Thanks for joining us again. And Emma?
Hello, I'm Emma. I'm enjoying all the compliments that you're giving. We're wonderful team members.
I'm after something. You can tell us an agenda.
I'm Emma and I'm the head of seller at Venture Forge. Like Travis, I've not worked in Amazon, but I've worked in e-commerce for nearly 12 years now. So I've done my life sentence for that. Now it's time to be on the Amazon side and working with a fantastic team within Venture Forge.
Fantastic. We're all very complimentary. We need to get a bit of an edge to this. We do.
We
need to
just
get a
love
bit
our
of
team.
Yeah,
It
we're
is
just a
good.
great team. So no beat around the bush.
So no pressure, Ross, to be equally as nice as you introduce
I'm going to say I
yourself.
feel like I've got to insult someone now just to balance it out. So I'm Ross. I've worked at Pooch & Mutt just over 3 years now. Before that, I worked at another agency. Very sorry, competitor one. And then prior to that, I worked at Hallmark Cards. So Amazon experience in total, I think it's about 7-8 years now. So yeah, here I am at Pooch & Mutt.
Quite a change from selling greeting cards to selling high-quality pet food.
Just a slightly higher ASP, but otherwise, yeah, it's okay.
Fantastic. Well, look, thanks for joining us today, Ross.
Thank you.
We found out a couple of weeks back that I drive randomly, not stalkerishly, past Ross's house pretty much 3-4 days a week.
Yep.
Until Ross told me, I didn't realise his house is on a very kind of unique corner and he's got the world's brightest yellow door. I'd never noticed this yellow door until he mentioned it. And now as I drive around that
You
corner,
wave.
I wave at him. I do wave at him.
I did wave at him this morning, but he did
Friends.
ignore me, so I didn't get a lift. I had to drive myself here.
Despite your door, my eyes were shut this morning at the time I drove past your house. But no, thank you very much for joining us. As always with our podcast, if you're watching this for the first time when it goes out on our Livestone channel, there will be a live poll running today. And I've had a very strict warning from our marketing manager to only read the title and not the options. Let the options pop up on screen and let the options do the work. But today's poll, as we're starting to look into 2026, is what is your top priority for your Amazon business for the new financial year? Now, I know for some of you that financial year will start in January. For others, you'll be mid-planning for an April start. But what is your top priority for the new financial year? If you're watching this live, you should have some options popping up. I'm trying to work out where the middle of the camera is, somewhere around there. Tick the option, and you can also see at the same time how the rest of the audience is feeling about that as well. Also, we have a team online, if you're watching this for the first time, answering live Q&A, and we have promised, Whitney, that we will try and remember to prompt you all throughout, but somewhere along the bottom, is that left? Yeah, we had to work this out earlier. Somewhere down, I'm right in the middle again, somewhere over here, I feel like I'm pointing at your shoulder now.
Here.
Somewhere, yeah, there's a questions, but there is a little Q&A button. Please ask your questions, get them in. We have a full team of Amazon experts in the background answering your questions in real time. So please get them in. If there's anything we talk about throughout this conversation, please just put your questions in and we'll be happy to answer them as best we can. If there's anything we don't get to, you can always reach us at hello@ventureforge.co.uk. Right, I want to start getting you guys to talk a little bit. So we're starting to look at 2026. There's lots of things I want to talk about today: planning, budgeting, team. How do you be strategic? But maybe start off at a real high level. What does an effective plan for 2026 look like? What kind of things are you guys starting to think about as you plan for the next year?
Looking at the data from the last 12 months, I think there's so much reactivity that you can do within the year, but to have a baseline and that data that you've been recording or monitoring across the last 12 months, that really helps gauge as to what you need to do moving forward. Obviously, every year is different, seasonality is different, but if you've got that really stable plan of what worked and when it worked and how it worked, that's just a really, really good, stable starting ground to get cracking for 2026.
Yeah, I think having a roadmap, like looking historically what's gone really well, whether that be great promotional campaigns, great product releases, good hires within the team, bad hires within the team, every single thing feeds into that roadmap, essentially. If you're starting on nothing, you're just going to be guessing into the new year and you're constantly going to be behind, be reactive. So rather have a roadmap in place, be proactive, and be quite honest with yourself. I think all things that have gone well, be honest with and celebrate, and things that haven't gone well, why haven't they gone well and how can you better it? And this isn't a 1 month sort of practice. This is a constantly evolving 6 months in the past, 12 months in the past, and then looking forward 1, 2, 3 years and building that roadmap of your business where you want to get to. So I'd say forward planning, but on Emma's point, you need the historical figures and facts to plan that.
What kind of data? What are you looking at?
Well, as an example, we've just taken on a really exciting new client. And they got, I think it's around 15 to 20 years worth of data from their current e-commerce platform and Amazon. So for us, that's like a gold mine. It's got the customer data, customer behavior, purchasing behavior, how every promotion that they've done over the past 10 years plus has worked for them.
Amazing.
And to us, that is exactly what we would dream of for working on new campaigns or for optimizing a client's Amazon account.
I remember in the early days of Venture Forge, we worked with lots of startup brands and they were the hardest to forecast because you had nothing. You had no background, you had a lot of belief, a lot of ambition, but no data, no insight. And it was all forecasting from nothing is ambition, it's hope, it's not actually forecasting. You talked there about lots of the brand's current data. Do you use? I'm asking. Do you use? I know you use because we work together.
Yeah.
But we have lots of market data as well. How do you bring that into a plan? So when you've got a brand, you've got your great 15 years of trading history. That's probably going to be reflective of what the category does. But how do we use external data, things like market share data, market trends data, to then help pull some plans together?
We use that to the detail for us to see what a competitive brand's doing, even a non-competitor brand, but within a similar sector or remit. It's so handy for us to see how that brand's performed. There may be like a spike in their performance in 1 month, and yours doesn't seem to follow that same pattern. You can do a bit more diving into that, see what they did right then, and see if that's something that you can then replicate for your brand, your company. The data on other people's businesses is very, very handy. And I am a very nosy person, so for me, I love it.
It's that twitching behind the curtains of, I've got my customers' data, but what is
10 out of 10 curtain twitcher. Yeah.
The Amazon, we've got a new job title here, the Amazon curtain twitcher.
Yeah, and I think they say never compare yourself to others, but obviously within business you do. If you're not leader of the category, who is the leader of the category? What are they doing right? What could you learn from them? But also challenger brands. Are there some brands which are climbing through the ranks and absolutely destroying market share, not on price erosion or like two different products like that? If they're a similar product, similar industry, similar price points, and they're eroding your market share, what are they doing? Are they giving better information to the customer? Is it better quality? Are they getting into better demographics? Are they better fit for purpose? So I think looking at who's best in class and growing towards them as you strive to be best in class is a good idea, but also don't lose sight of the challenger brands, the ones that are busy nicking away bits and pieces at your market share. What can you learn from them? How can you adapt and pivot quickly to essentially take on the titans within your sector? So it's a fine balancing act.
I think those challenger brands are the ones to really watch. not from are they going to come and eat my prize, but actually from what can I learn and what can I understand. I'm always cautious when on these podcasts we see a lot of data, and I don't want to be saying this is this client, but we've just won a new client where they've given us access to their data, and I've seen one challenger brand come into their category and absolutely chew up their market share, and it's hurt them and it's hit them hard. Actually, the brand was all over it and really understanding of what was they understood what was going on and had decided to or not to respond in certain ways because of that. But those challenger brands are always coming to a market with, how do I take share off the big guys? That's how they're going to win. So from a tactics, approach point of view, you often get the new stuff from them. You know, this particular client is looking at that one challenger brand and saying, how the hell can they do that at that price point? We know they're winning on price, and they still can't figure out how they can do it on price. But it's making them ask more questions and plan in quite a different way.
It's the agility of a smaller brand. Yeah. That's the big thing. They move like speedboats, whereas the big brands are like oil tankers. They take forever and a day to turn around and make one decision.
Yeah.
So I think it doesn't matter how big you get, you've just got to carry on trying to be like a speedboat and keep making those quick decisions.
Yeah.
So that'd be my input on that.
It's like that agility. Yeah, they come out of nowhere. They come rapid. They're willing to try new things, whereas the more established businesses don't want to rock the boat or can't afford to rock the boat sometimes too much until they have to.
Yeah.
And it's that risk factor. Smaller brands now are willing to take a risk.
Yeah.
They know that there's that investment piece that they need to do. They're willing to take a hit on profitability if it means that they're going to challenge the bigger brands, and they are not concerned about the risk.
I suppose what is the risk to a smaller brand though? If they're lesser known, then the damage is minimal.
isn't.
If a massive brand gets it wrong, then that's a big problem, right?
Well, one, reputationally, and two, financially.
Yeah.
If you get that, if you try to execute something bold and big and it goes wrong, whereas actually you're right, smaller brands are designed to learn fast, fail quick, succeed quick, and double down if they can do. What does your business look like in terms of planning for 2026? We don't want detail. You don't have to get a spreadsheet out.
It starts very early for us. I mean, one thing I try and push the team to do is live debriefs of what works and doesn't work. So we're never just sitting down at the end of the year and going, right, what went well, what didn't. We try and do that all the time. So there's constantly asking the questions. I think the other thing as well is we try and figure out our big bets. So we try and say these are the things that like NPD or tactics that we're going to do on media or things like that. We try and establish what those look like and what the metrics for success look like. And we're constantly pushed as a business to sort of say, like, this is what we expect success to look like. And if we don't meet those, then we determine it as a fail. And if we do, then great, we all celebrate it. But yeah, it's trying to just figure out what we're going to back and not back very quickly and moving from that.
How do you get to that? Because I love where everyone's coming from. We've got kind of internal data. How have I performed historically? Possibly external data. What's the category doing? What are my competitors doing? How are you getting to, what bets could I or should I look at?
In terms of products, we'll sort of say like where we have internal expectations of, this is what it kind of needs to do to wash its own face and be viable. And then externally, what do we see competitors doing? What do we think we should be performing at in terms of a benchmark? And yeah, Pickard is quite ruthless on the data front. It's one of the core values of the business is that data leads everything. It's not you're the CEO of this company, so you can have overriding say of these guys, but data overrides everybody's opinion. It doesn't matter. So that's kind of the way that we operate. And we've tried to stay true to that, even from being a small company to where we are now.
So it seems to be commonality here that data drives everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's, from an agency point of view, that's what we look at. From a brand point of view, are we missing anything there? Because I think data's great, and data for me should underpin those decisions. But Trav, you touched on something earlier, which is about the vision, the master plan, the long-term plan. For me, that's always got to be a big part of it. Is that is the team aligned on where are we going? What's the mission? What's the vision? Because then, and that might be a 5-year or 10-year horizon, but if without that, you can't lock in the 1-year plan, the 3-month plan, the 2-week plan, if you're not all aligned as a team to where that broader mission is going. Is that something that you find at Pickard is very well aligned and very clear that you all know? And I'm hoping the answer to this is yes, because otherwise I'll probably just really stitch you up with this question.
I couldn't say it's yes all the time, but more often than not. Sometimes it does get a bit ambiguous and you've got to really sit down and determine what the KPIs are and just, fine tune it a little bit. But more often than not, I'd say 70 or 80% of the time, you could definitely say that.
Yeah, and that's not a bad place to be. I mean, to get everybody in a large organisation 100% aligned 100% of the time is nigh impossible.
Yeah.
Most of the people pointing in the right direction most of the time is a good measure of success.
It's not herding cats, I think, is the fair analogy. We're all somewhat going in the same direction, it's just a bit of fine tune.
Excellent. What's rattling the food?
Pretty much, yeah. That's what the pack's treats for out there.
Brilliant. And thank you for those treats. I'll look forward to trying them later on.
Yeah, I can't wait to nibble on them.
So you talked there about times about campaigns and where you're going to place your bets. I'm interested, how do brands then start to think about how my budget's going to be allocated across the different things I could do on Amazon. I think when I say could do, I think it's very easy to get dragged into probably what I call the marketing stuff, the content, the ads, the storefront. But alongside that, there's also the MPD. There's the operational improvements, the operational process. I can see where you get to. You've got your vision, you've got your bets, you've got your plan coming together. But how do you then take all of that into actual meaningful stuff that you can take to your ads team, your content team, your agency, your product development team?
I think you need to break it up into two parts. You always have the front-facing stuff, which is the promotions, the graphics, advertising. That's all the stuff the customer sees and Amazon sees. Behind the scenes, there's people that's running around and peddling water just to try and stay above it, essentially. That's your operations, your logistics, your in-stock. Are you fighting against other online retailers within your business for stock allocation? NPD pipelines, everyone wants product exclusives. Everyone knows now Amazon thrives off of product exclusives. It drives your margin, it drives your conversion rate on Amazon, it just drives new to brand customers and awareness also. So I think being able to, I don't want to say sell the dream to the business is the right idea, because selling the dream sounds a little bit sketchy, but give them the size of the prize. Guys, if we fix XYZ logistical problems, in-stock problems, product allocation problems, or even just team problems, if your team's not sort of pulling the weight that they should be, that's all going to have a downstream impact to the front-facing things. You're not going to be able to fund promotions as much. You're not going to be able to have as big an ad budget. You're not going to be able to keep products in stock during peak periods. So I think being able to sell the dream to the business holistically is the way to drive it forward more than anything. It's not one part, it's the sum of all parts, essentially, to thrive on Amazon.
That full ladder of the business, like the bottom is the levers and then the operations at the top.
That's it.
Just making sure that everything's in alignment.
Get everyone to buy into the dream, 100%. From the smallest in-stock intern that's packing those orders to the guy that's signing the big AVN deals, everyone along that value chain needs to have the buy-in of Amazon and know the size of the prize, essentially.
I think you've started to unravel something there that I think is really important. That too often for me, Amazon gets seen as us.
Yeah.
The guy at the front of it in the Amazon department, and what actually sits behind that is the product team, the warehouse or operational team, the finance team, in making sure that you're not being double billed by Amazon, for example. Amazon in itself is a channel, not a person. And when you start to think about how you plan that out, you can't just look at what am I going to invest in ads, what am I going to invest in content, and like you said, the upfront stuff or the marketing stuff. One of the biggest problems I see in our organisation and challenges our clients face is lack of stock. Where's the investment in stock? Is enough stock being purchased to drive the Amazon channel and make that work? So for me, I'd almost say you've got to start by working out every part of your business that drives the success or failure of your Amazon business. And then for me, what is the granularity of the plan behind that? Marketing is probably what most people think is Amazon. Then what's your next vertical? Stock. Then product development, product exclusives for Amazon. There's a whole host of areas for me that need a plan behind them and almost a unique P&L for Amazon before you can start to plan.
Yeah.
It's something like stock that I think a lot of clients forget, that the minute you go out of stock, that can knock back your account 3 to 6 months.
Knocks back everything.
It knocks back everything.
If you can't get stock in, you can't even advertise it. You can't even hit your confirmation rate KPIs. You can't even look to do deals because you physically don't have stock. So
Amazon won't want to show you.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think stock is the foundational part of everything when it comes to Amazon. Customers don't go there just for like a browse or like, oh, that's pretty pictures. They want something and you need to service it.
This sounds like a really, really noddy and obvious point. Saying, if you don't have stock, you can't sell it. But you've touched on a few reasons as to why that's really important. For me, the most obvious one is if you haven't got it, you can't sell it. But in the Amazon world, 1 week out of stock will cost you 6 weeks worth of sales because your velocity and visibility will drop. But it still seems to be one of the most common pitfalls that I see brands not planning for. It's far too common to hear, I've allocated that stock somewhere else, I've not bought enough, I've not got it to Amazon on time. That's got to be a big thing that we should be pushing people to sort into 2026.
We always have to say that Amazon stock can't be the afterthought. It has to be the first thought, because e-commerce websites, bricks and mortar, there's a lot less damage that can be done if you're out of stock with something for a week. With Amazon, it does have that huge knock-on effect. Organically, advertising, everything just gets set back. So Amazon stock cannot be an afterthought.
I think that's an interesting point, that the retailer and the website ones aren't as important, because for us, it's almost the flip side, because retailers, you've got that sort of buyer relationship that you've got to maintain. And then with a website, if you've got a subscription model, you can lose that, and those customers may decide to cancel a subscription, which has a lifelong value impact. But I do think, like you say, it comes, one of the big things for next year for us is forecasting, and Amazon's ordering we know can be peaks and troughs and virtually impossible to do. And that's something that we've tried to really unpick this year, and try to build out that stock holding has been a big thing for us. And a part of my 3 years at Pooch has been getting the ops guys to understand that relationship with Amazon. It's not the same as every other customer, but that doesn't mean it needs to be treated any differently when it comes to allocating and confirming, you know, everybody needs to get some of it. It can't be that 2 out of the 3 get everything and 1 gets nothing. And that's a big thing for us.
It's so difficult to get right, because I think challenger brands and scale-up brands ideally want a single stock pool that they can then have flexibility, manage their working capital a little bit better, and know that if a product's in stock, they can sell it anywhere, and it's almost a safer bet. But as you start to mature, and I could probably argue even in the early days, Amazon really does require a consistent, regular, dedicated stock pool, especially when you get into a world of dedicated SKUs, dedicated bundles for value. It does drive its own way of behaving. But it is challenging. It's very challenging for a brand to deliver that.
I think it almost becomes a game of hungry hippos, though, if you only got one central stock pool, which is that everybody goes after trying to get for as much as for their bit as they possibly can, and nobody else gets anything. So I think there's a bit of a balance to it, isn't there? That, like I say, everybody needs some of it. Not everybody can get all of it, kind of thing.
Sorry, complete tangent. What's your favourite 80s kids game?
I'm a 90s kid, so...
Show off. You absolute show off.
What's that? The one where you press down on the plastic dome and it pops. I can't remember what it's called.
Luda.
No.
Is that Luda? No.
Oh, I can't remember. You had to like snap
Before our time.
I'm going to
we came in the digital age.
Guy.
Smug.
I'm 1990, but
Okay.
Bop It will forever be the best one.
Yeah, we the 90s then, sorry,
I was
Andy.
going to say, you're just sucking up to your boss at this point, then, aren't you? That's fair.
I'm hungry hippos. I need to go dig it out from under the bed when I get home. You're really planting the
Snakes
seed
and
there.
ladders.
I think I've still got it. We've got a complete tangent there. That's brilliant. I love these podcasts and that. How do you manage stock at Pooch then? So have you got separate stock allocations to Amazon? And from the conversation I picked up, you're vendor, not seller?
Yeah, we are vendor. So we have 2 distribution partners, shall we say. So we've got DPD that does the website side of it, and then our operations partners called Lenham's, they do retail and Amazon. So that's the way we kind of differentiate the stock. They sit in 2 physical locations that are vastly different, so you can't really screw them up. The ops guys do a really good job, though, of managing that relationship and making sure that we have those conversations if we know we're going to short something, and the reasons why and what the cash value impact is, and everybody in the business is brought along that journey so that nobody's surprised that, Amazon's 100k behind or Amazon's 300k ahead. Why has that happened, kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of the way we go about it. Keeping it in 2 physical locations ups the cost a bit, but also just makes it a lot more clear cut rather than having that single pool.
Forces you to think a little bit differently.
Yeah, definitely.
And you touched a bit there, Ross, on kind of forecasting for next year. Now, as a vendor, how are you doing that? Are you asking Amazon to the forecast, or are you doing your own demand planning first to understand what are we likely to sell to the consumer? Are you using consumer data, or are you waiting?
Yeah, we use consumer. I don't ever trust Amazon to provide us the right numbers, if I'm honest with you. Like,
Why not?
Yeah, many reasons that I don't think this podcast is long enough to cover.
Probably legally, I might not want you to.
Yeah, I'm thinking it'd be getting onto slander, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think for us, we build our own, consumer demand forecast, and then sort of work it backwards from there as to how much extra do we need to hold, and what does that buffer need to look like. As a business, as we've grown, we've got into the fortunate position that cash flow has allowed us to sit on more stock centrally. So key lines for us do have a buffer that even if every line was to over-deliver, there is still X amount extra for us all. Obviously, that does then allow people to potentially under-forecast and sandbag a bit because they know that buffer could just give them over-delivery, but we manage that as internal politics, as any business does.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Excellent. Well, conscious there's a lot we've gone through around more of the financial planning, data side of things. Please, if you have any questions and you're watching this for the first time, keep them coming. I suspect there might be quite a few coming around this, and we'll answer those if you're watching this as we go out for the first time on our Livestorm channel. I want to talk about team and resource. Obviously, planning for what you want to achieve is one thing. Then there's a planning for how are you going to do it and what team do you need in place to do that, or call to action, what agency do you need in place? Whitney told me to do it.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
We're only doing this for
Did
one
you
reason.
point to your badge?
Point to the badge. Yeah, actually, yes, it's there. We could just have a web address on the end. But as you start to think about a team that you need, how do you start to think about a team structure that you might need for running a successful Amazon business and to possibly get to where your new forecast is telling you you want to get to? How do you start to think about a team aspect?
I think for us, like, we've learned the lesson the hard way of trying to stretch the team to absolutely copper wire thin, and then when it's at breaking point, add some more people to it. So we always try and stay a little bit ahead of that curve. So for us, depending on what our goals are for next year, if we're trying to grow in new territories, we may need headcount or resource to do that. But if we're looking at profitability, is it actually, can we just get a little bit more bandwidth out of everybody? Is there some practices that we're completing right now that aren't really adding that much value, and we're doing it because we've always done it? And again, that comes back to that whole, what I mentioned earlier about reviewing what works and doesn't work. And is there anything where we sit down and we go, we fill this report in every Monday, who looks at it? No one. Why do we do it then? And I think Amazon provides you so much data that you can get into that headspace of just doing it because we've always done it. And yeah, that kind of falls back into that whole review of what's worked and not worked.
I think for me, having that clear plan of what you want to achieve, and then Trav, you talked about the milestones and the things that you need to do to achieve that plan. I think once you've got that clear view on what you need to do, for me, that can help you understand, well, what do you need in place to make that happen? And for me, that what do you need to do planning times when you can really take that step back and think about, well, what am I actually doing today? What's adding value? To pinch a bit of your language, what bets are actually playing off and what's succeeding? And then you can look at that team structure. I think one thing I'd be challenging brands to look at this time around is, have I actually got the right team in place? I know that sounds such a generic thing to say, but it's the team piece that's important to me. All too often, we still come across brands that have an Amazon person, or the Amazon team is 2 people doing a national account manager type role and overlapping. When you really get behind the skin of what an Amazon business involves, you have content, or you have strategy and planning, you have the thinking piece, the strategic piece, which might be that NAM type role. You then have the marketing aspect, which is creative, it's content, it's advertising. You then have the operational aspect, which is in the vendor world, which you know much better than anybody, Trav, is the movement of stock into Amazon, but doing it in the right way that's compliant and handling things well. On the seller, completely different kettle of fish. But I think for me, it's far too easy to think it's that Amazon guy's job. And if you're trying to scale an Amazon business, you have to be looking at what structure and resource do I need in place to do the things that my plan requires me to do. That single person business for brands over a couple of million quid, for me, isn't scalable.
No, the amount of brands that we met at that BLE, and they were like, oh, we've got one person working in-house and they're really struggling with the day-to-day. They can't keep on top of everything. And that's when those little cracks start to appear. And that's where you see that the strategy and that growth strategy just isn't really working out. And it's taking into that realization that Amazon is mental when it comes to workload. That's why we're here. This is why we've got teams of people working on those accounts, especially like you said, over $1 million plus, the workload only ever grows. It doesn't get easier.
So you said that those teams who had somebody working up for ages, that national account manager is often managing Amazon, eBay. Walmart.
Yeah, it's marketplace manager, and it's everything.
Yeah, it's too broad a role. I can see where you start out from that position of the common skill set. It's a marketplace. The reality is Amazon is very, very different. Amazon typically is the largest marketplace in any channel. You get your curveballs if you look at Wayfair in the house market. They've got really good market share, or did have last time I looked at the data. But Amazon is the storefront for most brands. If you start a shop as a consumer, you're probably starting on Amazon. To put that role in and amongst other national retailers, and I've seen Asda alongside Amazon. They're fundamentally different relationships. For me, Amazon, 1, has to stand on its own, and 2, you then need the right resource, either internal and building a team or external with support, to actually hit your plan. Otherwise, it's a dream.
I can say, I remember we interviewed someone, and she was brilliant, like one of the best people. She unfortunately left the business because she relocated back to Germany, but she was managing 14 marketplaces by herself in the peak of her role, and every single one of those could have been £1 million plus if she had the right support with her, but just impossible to do all of that by herself. But that's the way the world seems to be at the minute.
How can you do that? I mean,
she couldn't. Basically, she was doing 20-hour days and ridiculous amounts of hours and not delivering anything because she was just so in the weeds of everything, and no time to think strategically, basically. So yeah,
you're firefighting.
Yeah,
there's no strategy. We spoke about that, with the team members that we've got that work within seller and vendor. We are quite strict as to the limit of clients that they can work with, because then any more, say, than what we work on, which is around 4 to 5 clients, any more than that, you're not really providing that strategic experience. You're not providing that additional team member, but we're just the agency.
Yeah.
At one point, I was managing around 120 clients, in
Not
previous
at
role.
Venture Forge.
Not at Venture Forge. At a previous role, and that was firefighting. It was crazy.
Yeah,
My hair was bigger then, way bigger.
you need to develop like a hit squad, essentially, if you want to call it that, where within your business you need to have your front face, who's your national account manager, doing all the negotiations, all the talks with Amazon. You need an advertising manager, maybe a merchandiser to help with graphics and graphic creation, an SEO specialist, which could sort of lead into the senior account manager. But realistically, if you've north of 1 million, you need at least 3 people within your team, if not more. Focus on logistics, focus on front of house, focus on the back end and advertising. The way I like to see it is, if you one person, you've got 5 balls to juggle with Amazon, whether it's logistics, pricing, promotions, advertising, but you can only juggle 2 of those balls at any one time. So 3 other things are sitting at the back. So great, I'm doing promotions, I'm giving funding, but I'm dropping my advertising, but I'm dropping my content, but I'm dropping my logistics, which is hitting my confirmation rate, my fill rate, my out of stock rate. So you physically can't juggle all those things. Yes, you can do maybe 1 or 2 of them really well, but the rest of the stuff's just going to be sitting in the back end and not be driving any value.
It's also completely different skill sets.
Yeah.
You're
Focus on what you're good at.
SEO or content, whichever angle you come at content from, a technical angle or the creative angle, that's a different skill set to the person that's running the advertising. It's a different skill set to the person who's driving operational efficiencies down in the warehouse. And it was possibly, we could come across maybe incorrectly here. I don't think we're saying here that you need 15 people, but you need 5 roles. That person might be doing something else. Take your operational specialist. They might also be managing Tesco down in the warehouse. They might also be managing Asda in your world, or wherever else you're selling, or your D2C website. But somebody needs to have a part of their role dedicated to understand the Amazon part of their role, how to do that well, how to deliver on the lever they need to pull to hit your strategic plan. It's possibly more on the marketing side of things where I think you're likely to see the different people. Yeah, I can't see many of our clients that would have a dedicated Amazon person in the warehouse. It's part of a role, but we do see many of them that have 3 or 4 people Amazon teams up front, national account manager, creative, ads, etc. Even some of that overlaps with other parts of their role, but it's not a one-person game.
No.
When should you look at in-house versus out-house as you're scaling up and starting to ramp? You look forward to 2026. You've got a plan there that says, I'm going here, I've got to deliver X, Y, and Z. I need these heads to make it happen. What role does agency versus hiring play in that mix?
I think it depends where you are in the evolution of your business. Do you have the money to invest in specialists, essentially? Can you hire them in-house? Obviously, the holy grail is to hire them in-house. They learn your brand ethos. They become part of your brand. They live and breathe your goals, ambitions as a brand. They're not working as a third party to implement those goals, if you know what I mean. A third party, yes, they'll be part of your team, but they are still an extension of your team. They're not within your actual brand. So I think it's just capabilities. Do you have the money to get the relevant people at the relevant place within the company? If not, then outsource it. There's no shame in doing that. Do it incrementally. You don't need to offshore your entire operations, but if you're struggling a bit with advertising, or you don't have a graphics designer that's able to build products to an Amazon standard, feel free to outsource it. And it doesn't need to be a retained service. If you want to do a short project burst on it just to get a feel of it and learn the fundamentals of it before you maybe take it in-house, don't be afraid to drop that money and run those experiments. So I think it depends where you are within a business and what goals you want to achieve, essentially. Can one person do it? Probably not. Can a few specialized people support your one person in doing it? Probably yes.
Ross, I'm interested in your view, because you're ex-agency, now brand side, so you kind of poacher turned gamekeeper.
Yeah. I was poached, actually. So I used to I used to work on the Pooch & Mutt account at the agency that I worked at. So Pooch & Mutt's always had the ethos that once you've ran the test, because as I say, testing rules everything, and the results of testing determine what you do. If something shows signs of life, then give it that investment, which often means moving from the agency side to in-house. I think agencies still do play a role. We still partner with agencies for things like chargebacks and, fighting that fight. So that there are things that we would never look to bring in-house. But more often than not, it's testing it with an agency partner. And then if it's potential to bring it in-house, that's when we'd look to do it. Just as you mentioned about the ethos and understanding the culture a little bit more, and even understanding product ranges a little bit more. The best will in the world, unless you're living and breathing that one particular brand every day, it's always going to be a little bit of a challenge. You might understand it 90%, but the difference between our fresh range versus our primal range, what are you really going to get other than maybe £10 price difference? going to be really hard to determine.
That's interesting. I've always found that the agency versus in-house trade-off has been domain knowledge, so depth of Amazon versus your domain knowledge, which is depth of product.
Yeah.
And a good relationship for me should bring the real high quality, I guess, depth of Amazon knowledge, bring it alongside the depth of brand knowledge and create that great working relationship. But I think you've hit the nail on the head with, I don't think you've quite said this, but it's the view I've got, and it aligns with, I think, a lot of where you're coming from, is an agency is a problem solver. It should be brought in to solve a problem. Now, it might be, I've got a bet. I believe that if we do X, it will pay off. And an agency is a low-risk way of taking that on. You're buying the expertise, you're de-risking the bet. If it doesn't work, you can jettison that resource quickly with no risk and no internal cultural impact. If it does pay off, you then have a decision to, well, do I keep it with that agency partner, or do I want to invest in this and bring it in-house in my own way?
Yeah, I mean, not to blow too much smoke up my own backside in saying this, but, you know, when I was brought in, it was to manage Amazon, Ocado and others. And I remember having a really frank conversation with my boss, which was, if you just give me the Amazon one, I can make you more money than if you give me those three.
Yeah.
And he backed me on the bet, and it proved to be correct in the end. And he gave the other 2 accounts to somebody else, and that got figured out elsewhere. But it is just having that faith in, can that one person, if they'd have that one thing, actually deliver it? And I backed myself enough to have that conversation and bet my job on it, and it played out okay in the end.
And you've backed that conversation around Amazon is important.
Yeah.
I can't manage everything else around it.
Yeah.
I have to just concentrate on that.
Yeah.
Which is the whole discussion that we've had, is you can't treat Amazon as a secondary or third option. It has to be that priority.
Yeah. I mean, there's been 3 years of trying to get like operations guys to recognise that, you know, Amazon needs a little bit of stock here. Come on, let's play the game. And there's, you know, content, we need a little bit more resource, and actually A+ could be designed this way and it'll be a little bit better for us and stuff like that. So it's just been moving the business over the few years as well, and try to get them to recognise those points.
So would it be fair to summarise this section then about the team and resource of, one, look at what you've actually got to do this year, and then from there work out who do I need to make that happen? And then to this conversation on the in-house versus out-of-house approach, it's, if you can or don't want to do that yourself, where can you place a bet on an agency to fill a gap? Either it is a skill gap, an expertise gap, a knowledge gap. But I love your mindset around that bet-based approach, which is, if I need expertise, I can buy it in, test my bet, evaluate it. If it pays off, might bring it in-house.
Yeah, pretty much.
I wish all brands would speak with that clarity to agencies. You know, I think people are often afraid of saying to an agency, you have a role to play. It might be short term. For us, clarity, buddy, works. It's quite nice to know where you stand.
There you go. I try and be very transparent.
Was that the first time you've ever gone on record and confessed that you bet your job on Amazon being successful? I'm wondering if when your partner's watching this episode go out, have you got a question to answer when you get home?
Probably, yeah.
Probably,
yeah. I think I've got one to answer to my team as well, because I've never told them that I did that bet. Yeah, so we're a team of 7 in total, so they don't really know their jobs were founded on one, my only gamble I've ever taken. So,
but you placed the bet before you employed 7 people?
Yes.
I'm just checking what confession you're making here. It was just your job that you bet, not the other 7.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Excellent. We're probably in safe territory then.
There you go.
Brilliant. I thought I might have to go back and re-record that whole segment for a
We've
second.
got an amazing video editor.
Just to get Ross out of the deep stuff that he just dug himself into. Look at the time here, we're about 40 minutes in. Just a quick reminder, if you do want to get some more questions in, please keep those coming if you are watching this as it goes out for the first time on Livestorm. If you're watching this on our other channels, I lose track now. We've got Spotify, we've got YouTube, we're on Apple, we're on Amazon Podcasts. The live Q&A feature isn't available there, but if you want to ask any questions of me or the team, just drop us an email to hello@ventureforge.co.uk and we'll be happy to help. A couple more things I've got on my list here, things I'd like to talk about is more kind of operational stuff and scaling levers. What operational improvements have you seen had the biggest impact on growth? And if you were looking forward to 26, what levers would you be looking to pull?
I think obviously the basic ones are in stock. Like we said earlier, if you can't even get stock into Amazon, that's just going to hit your KPIs. It's going to mess with AVN negotiations later on down the line because Amazon thinks you can't service the customer. It's going to deprioritize you as an account because Amazon thinks you can't fulfill orders for the customer. Confirmation rate, fill rate, all those things trickle down economics, and it's just going to be a bad feeling essentially amongst everyone. So I'd say start at your value offering when it comes to products. Can you serve them? Can you get them at the right time? Can you get them in consistently? Or are you just going for a short burst because they may be seasonal products? So I think focus on the product, focus on the availability of those products, and are they fit for purpose with Amazon? I'd say that is like one of the biggest fundamentals from our side is fixing that.
Stock forecasting is the main operation. That's like a really, really good starting block as to ensure that even if you're like planning 3 months, 6 months ahead, you've got some form of forecast for the team to concentrate on. And then operationally from me, just because I love the marketing side of things, with the operations around marketing Amazon, use your same marketing calendar that you're using across the business. Apply that to Amazon. If you need to make design changes, content changes that you're already making on your website, replicate, make sure that you're updating your Amazon as well. Operationally, treat Amazon like it is your e-commerce store, and just make sure that that's always being updated. Your content's always where it needs to be, and just utilize that marketing calendar.
It's a big miss, I find.
Yeah.
People start to talk about the Amazon trading calendar. When's Prime Day? When's Prime Day 2? What are Amazon doing? For me, start with how your world works today. Overlay Amazon's on top of that, because you don't want to get to October and forget that Prime Day was happening. God forbid. But you're right, stick to basic retail principles.
Yeah.
I think one of the other ones for me that is an absolute noddy tactic is walk the shop. If you work in physical retail, you would go and walk the aisles of the shop. When I used to work in digital retail, my team would walk the virtual aisles of the shop every morning, and we would have a team of kind of trading managers that would walk their category. And it might only be the first 2 or 3 pages, but spotting a product that's got a broken image, a product that's mispriced, a product in the wrong category. There's one of my favourite brands that I buy off that I won't name because it's not fair on them, has the worst visual merchandising on their website. There's products I would buy off them if I could find it. The product exists, it's just dead and buried. And for me, the same applies to Amazon. Walk the store every morning because it is much more dynamic. You don't control half of Amazon. You control your physical store, you control your retail store. You don't control what Amazon will do, and you don't control what the competition are going to do. You also don't control what other genuine or rogue sellers are going to do, and whether a listing can change tomorrow. So you have to walk that store every single day. I can't tell you what you'll find, but there's almost always a gem every week of something that's either broken or positive or insightful. So absolute retail basics for me is
Yeah, we did a simple walk through with a client, and then we noticed on their storefront nav, like the top nav, it was near enough impossible to find something. So just a simple, like when you walk into a storefront, what do you see?
Yeah.
Like, you know that there's sections to that store, you know where you need to go to find something, unless it's Morrison's, because they change those lanes, aisles all the time. But a simple thing like the top nav, it just needed simplifying, it needed some change in wording, and then you were reaping the benefits of that.
I think that's where agents are quite good, though, because they come at it from more of a broader consumer lens, whereas, and I think this is one thing we've been bad for in the past is, we know our product range is quite granular, so we name them under that basis, but actually the customers shop under that same lens, probably not, and we're just using it because it's internal jargon.
Yeah.
But sometimes that external view can help with that a little bit. I think clarifying that as well is a big point.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the advantages of working with an external party, not as ingrained in the brand and not as ingrained in the internal language of the brand, and that ability to take a step back and ask a stupid question and act as a consumer might do actually does give you an advantage.
The buffer I use is, does my mum understand this? And if she can understand it, then I'm sound. And that's the way I think about it.
Those boomers and their double clicking on
She
things.
probably can't
that they
find the
don't-
website, but could she understand it if she could?
Excellent. Operation, what about Amazon specific product? Because for me, that is somewhere between operations and product, but for me, that has got to be one thing that you see brands doing more and more of. The big trend I see, not even going into 26, it's a continued trend that I think started back end of 24, moving into 25. Amazon is becoming tighter and more, you're having to be more commercially focused to make Amazon successful, whether it's on seller, ever increasing fee stacks, vendor, net PPM. I'm fed up of hearing that from you, Trav. Net PPM pressure for all of our clients. A lack of control of distribution causes problems. That's, to me, operational lever one we should be talking to clients about and brands about. And having unique products that can give you a defensible price point on Amazon gives you a much more successful channel. I see lots of brands doing it, but far from the majority.
We always say don't race to the bottom. So many brands are discounting and promoting products when they don't need to. If they could look at a specific product for Amazon where there is that margin, even if it's a bundle, something that you can make specifically for Amazon where you're going to make the money back on it. Don't just constantly try and race to the bottom. Create that specific product. We've done it. We've tested it and it works.
Yeah, agreed. And I think if you can tailor the experience, if you got your A+, your brand store, all your content sort of looking great also, it's a way for you to introduce new customers to the brand. Like if you're the only one that's selling that product in that specific size, color, variant, whatever it is through Amazon, great, the customers buy it, but it might be an opportunity for them to cross-sell into the rest of your brand because they may not have heard of it in an offline space. You may not have a bricks and mortar retail presence. You may just be online, Amazon focused. So that is your storefront. There's no physical way where a customer can see it. All they get is digital and visual. So you really need to sell it. So yeah, new to brand opportunities and just being a differentiator. But like I said, Andy, net PPM issues gives you great leverage during AVN. Like, hey, if you guys want X amount extra exclusives, this is how much your entitlement is, this is how much money you can make. That's a pretty good deal. You know what I mean? So it gives you great leverage during AVN discussions also. So don't be afraid to drive that NPD funnel.
Also, have you got the same products across every channel, or have you got Amazon exclusives?
We do have a few Amazon exclusives, but they're nothing too much to write home about. I've seen various approaches to sort of the Amazon exclusive bits when I worked at the greetings card manufacturer. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to name names, so I won't do.
You did it earlier.
I did it.
Right.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, you've already done that.
We're 45 minutes at this point. I can't remember what I said 10 minutes ago. Yeah, I've seen, exclusive SKUs. So it's the same product, but just a different barcode. So it's never going to match to anywhere else. I've seen things like that done. We do have one or two exclusive products that are just for Amazon, but selection is the biggest part of Amazon's model, right? And it's the only thing that they cannot influence. You have the control over that. So I think, as you were just saying there, use it in the negotiations. Don't just chuck it in the midst of the year. Like, use that as a lever to try and wrangle something out of it for yourselves. And that's the way we've always tried to play it, and it has worked quite well so far.
Excellent.
I think I was your top Amazon Pooch and Mutt purchaser when I had my collie. He was the naughtiest dog on the planet.
A lot of calming treats, I'm guessing.
Everything that you could provide, we purchased.
Very good.
I hate to kill them if she does this with every guest we have on. She's after freebies.
Oh, that's fair enough. We can sort that out, don't worry about
I don't have a dog anymore, so I don't know where
We can find you freebies for other people.
Yeah.
It's still fine.
So this third-party sellers just popped up recently with all these products. Where'd she come from?
I do steal my neighbour's dogs quite often, so.
That's a whole other conversation. As long as your neighbour knows and it's agreed, that's
Borrow,
absolutely
not
fine.
steal, borrow.
Yeah.
What about, final bit on scaling levers, what about marketing tactics? What are you all seeing as things that we could or should be looking at in 2026? What's come new from Amazon in the last few months? What are the big levers that we could be pulling? I want to shoot first. Sorry, just before you all pinch my idea, because I can't think of anything extra. I think the expansion of DSP and the ever-increasing media on DSP.
Yeah,
oh, yes, I knew it. So I've just probably killed the rest of the conversation for you guys. But
Yeah.
the Netflix partnership for me is absolutely huge. Much more media becoming available. What that will do from a cost point of view, possibly more media might decrease cost, but bigger, more granular reach can only be a positive thing.
Nothing else to add from me because it was going to be that one point.
Yeah, no, literally. That and AMC, I think the power of that and being able to harness that information, slightly less maybe in the UK and Europe because of GDPR, but like in the States, some of the details you can get on customer profiles is actually disgustingly scary. They can know how big you are in your family, how many children you have, what car you drive, what state you're in, and you can specifically geographically target ads to them based on how they shop. It's ridiculous on DSP, some of the breakdowns you can get for customer profiles, essentially. So, yeah, DSP would probably be the
I can see Russ's
key
eyes.
driver.
Like, can you get down to breed of dog?
Well, you can work out large and small based on the bag size that they order. 2 kilo bag's a small dog. You wouldn't buy 10 kilos for a Chihuahua, otherwise you'd have it for 3 years before it's finished the bag, right? So there's ways and means. That's why big bags exist and small bags exist. But I think DSP is an interesting one for me because I'm not the media expert in my team, so I'm putting that out there just as a caution before I say this statement. But I think DSP really depends on what you're trying to achieve with it. And if you just try to make people aware of the purpose, brilliant. But I think if you're trying to get people to buy actively through DSP, I think there's such a risk of double counting. I'm sure there's a very technical solution to get around that. But from what we've seen, there was a lot of credit for the sun coming up happening when we were using DSP for that purpose.
Yeah.
But on the awareness front, it does a brilliant job.
I think DSP is possibly the most oversold and misunderstood marketing tactic of 25 that is now on a bit of a maturity journey. It became the bandwagon. You know, every meeting we had with Amazon was DSP. If you went to, I think the last Unboxed I went to was 2 years ago, Unboxed on tour in London, DSP. And when Amazon are pushing that message to brands and to partners, everybody's going to jump in, everybody's going to test. I think it takes that initial trial for people to go, great. Here's what he's good at. Here's the pitfalls. Here's how I can use it strategically. I really think 26 will be the year where people understand the role of DSP and can then execute it strategically to do something valuable for them?
I mean, my media counterpart has had a really frank conversation with our sort of ads contact within Amazon and sort of challenged them on, is DSP really that good if you can afford to give away so many freebies within it? And I think they almost devalue the product to try and get you involved with it, which is, we'll give you 10 grand for this and 20 grand for that. And it's almost like, is it really that good if you can afford to just chuck? And I know Amazon is billions of pounds company, but is it that good if you can afford to just be chucking away at it like that? So,
well, the closest analogy I've seen to what Amazon are doing with DSP is what Tesco started to do with their retail media strategy in store, which is replacing end caps with effectively massive TV screens that now take the end. If you think what Amazon makes on a product in terms of margin, net PPM targets of mid-20s, low 30s, but when you actually break down to true net margin, you're talking a single figure percentage margin business. Same for Tesco's. How much do they make flogging milk, bread, loss leaders? They're not making a great deal. That retail media is a 90% gross margin channel for them. So they can afford, I completely buy into your point of how much can you discount before you devalue the proposition. But to them, that is such high margin. And one of the behaviours I've seen in Amazon over the last couple of years is shifting from being a retailer, which is probably almost 100% of our conversations about Amazon being a retailer, to now being a media owner. And that's very much the strategy I've seen them play. I think brands can certainly harness that, and you'll see more do it in this next year. But it's now applying, dare I say, what you just brought to the table, which is that much more commercial lens on it. Why am I doing that? I love the bet mentality. I suspect if you did it in Pooch and Mutt, it would be, well, what do we expect it to do? Does it achieve it? Do we kill it? Do we continue it? I think you've got to just put it into its own little box. And treat it accordingly.
It's the mindset of the team. Everybody has a betting mindset, although none of us actually gamble in real life, which I always find quite weird. But in work, we're happy to chuck a bet down. So the media counterparts have all put their bets forward on what they think it's going to do, and we'll see who wins.
Very good. Very good.
I think the only problem is a lot of people think it's a silver bullet. If you know what I mean, you hear DSP and you're like, whoa, DSP is going to be a game changer, but that's really, really top fun. You still get sponsored play, sponsored brands, sponsored products. But even once you get past all that, if you've got terrible products, they're not going to sell. If your pricing's not right, they're not going to sell. If your reviews and ratings are terrible, it's not going to sell. And that's just for nothing. So I think you need to get everything to as close to best in class as possible, from your pricing mechanics to your display pages, to your SEO, to your bullet points, to whatever it is. Then the rest of your ads funnel, then your DSP should be like the cherry on top once you've basically exhausted every single other avenue. It's not a silver bullet that's going to save your business and turn around overnight. It should be strategically used because it is really expensive to get done, except if you do it through an agency. Another shameless plug there.
Call to action.
There we go. Call to action. But yeah, so the jokes aside, you need to go full funnel, not just on your ads. You need to have the right product offering, right pricing, right everything before you even consider DSP. Otherwise, you're just going to be throwing money down a well and gambling, but not gambling in a smart sense, let's say.
I think the only other bit I could add on that, and this is more from what we see at Pooch, is that whole channel management strategy. If we're advertising outside of Amazon, where does that then overlap with Google and the work that they do? And is there a risk that our website and Amazon are now going head to head and we're actually wasting spend? So there's that whole point in there as well that we do try and navigate quite closely. But fortunately, we've got very good working relationships with our D2C guys, and we try and navigate that as best we possibly can. But there is always going to be that element of inefficient spend.
Yeah.
I love that clarity of why does my channel exist? I'm not going to ask you to spill the beans on here is exactly what your channel strategy is, but you've clearly got a view on your D2C business. You've clearly got a view on your Amazon business, and it allows you to have a good internal debate of, well, if I'm going to go out with an above the line media strategy for my Amazon channel, what is the impact elsewhere?
Yeah, it's just who needs to win where, really. That's the overarching piece.
Yeah. So we've had a lovely conversation that makes it sound like we're all very strategic. We're like swans on top of the water. You're laughing, Trav, because we know that's not really the case.
So it's like maybe a few hours out of a day or a week.
So we're all we've painted this beautiful picture for everybody who's watching that we've got these lovely 26 plans coming together. But what often goes on in the background is this, I want to use the word, shitload of reactive stuff. Things go wrong, things happen, things break, positive stuff happens, new opportunities come up. CEO might lob a new product range in that he's been thinking up and not told anybody about until it appears at the last minute. Final section I want to go into is just a quick chat around how do you manage that? How do you manage that prioritization of trying to have this beautifully directional, well-executed strategic plan, and then balancing all that positive and negative reactive stuff that will still happen and often sometimes needs to happen.
I think it goes back to that. I love a plan. I plan everything in my life, and my husband and daughter sometimes get stressed with it. But if there's a basic plan, then everything that's reactive that sits on top of that, you're ready for it. I mean, you can't always be ready for some of the fires that happens within Amazon, but if you've got that complete marketing strategy, you've got that operational strategy set aside for the next 12 months, you know that you've got the foundations of stability. Whatever comes to rock the boat, which is daily, hourly, weekly, you're prepared for it, and you've got that foundation to just keep going. I just feel like I love a spreadsheet, I love Asana, all of those things. If you've got a stable one of them, you're fine.
Yeah, and I think have contingency plans. I mean, whether they seem wild or not, the weirdest things can happen with Amazon. I mean, there might be capacity constraints. Everyone knows every single year before Prime Day, before Black Friday, there's capacity constraints. Plan for it. Get your stock in early. Speak to your VM to get in touch with the in-stock manager if possible. If you do have that relationship with them, get your stock in early. Rather overstock and then sell out later on during promos than trying to play catch up when there is capacity constraints. So manage the things you can control, but have contingency plans in case of things you can't control, essentially. And there's a lot that can go wrong. And that just comes with experience, having a good agency, having a good team. I think also having a dynamic team, like we mentioned earlier, is a team with an entrepreneurial mindset where you can just pivot on a dime quickly. You don't need to go through the entire value chain from your FD to your head of finance to whatever to get sign off on SOAs. By the time you've got that sign off, your deal period's closed, for example. Yeah. So have a buy-in from top to bottom and just be frank with them. Say, guys, look, this is Q4. This is essentially wartime. Things will change quickly. This is what can go wrong. This is what might go wrong. I'm just letting you know. So I've got your buy-in from the get-go. If we need to pivot quickly and make some real change.
Love it. Anything to add, Ross?
I mean, my team, they all know they've got the ability to make the decisions. I'm sat here now doing this. If something broke, they know they don't need to wait for me to finish this to answer that question for them to do. Like,
I have seen your watch lighting up. You had 5 missed calls.
It's fine. It's probably my wife. Edit that bit out, please, for the love of God. Yeah, they know they can make the decisions. They know that they don't need to, like you say, go up the value chain and start asking me these kind of questions. They know that they have to be entrepreneurial and think about the solutions themselves. And as long as they can justify it and apply an air of this was my thinking, that's absolutely fine. If they do something and they cannot justify why they did it, that's a different conversation. But as long as there's logic being applied to it and just that reasoning behind it, then things are absolutely fine. So
does that not just though show the absolute value of having clear direction, clear plans, because you've got the confidence that your team know where they're going, what they're ultimately trying to achieve, and if crap hits the fan that you're not expecting, they can deal with that within that kind of framework, still knowing I want to try and get here. If you've got a problem, there might be 5 ways of solving it, but solving it in a way that aligns to the master vision and the master plan probably gives them that ability to think without you at that point.
I mean, I think back a couple of years and we had a really rough vendor negotiation to the point where about a third of our catalogue got suppressed in the midst of it. That's how bad it was. It was absolutely brutal. And I remember just thinking, the only thing I can do is just be really like transparent with my boss about just making sure that he was aware in it. This was also just after I placed the big bet on my job. So I was like, this needs to work. But, you know, we had to have these really open conversations. And I had to keep saying to him, like, look, if we ride this wave out, it's going to come good on the other side of it. And he backed me on it again 100%. And he had to have those conversations upwards and everybody was bought into it. So I think communication around what is happening and why it's happening and what we're trying to do to rectify it and just keeping everybody on the same page so that the people above you are aware that you're aware. And I think just sometimes giving that confidence to those around you that maybe things are hitting the fan, but we've got a plan in action or we're trying to work through it and this is what we're going to test and this is what we're pushing harder on media to navigate a third of the catalogue being unavailable, or actually are we pulling back on media to let Amazon know that whilst they're doing this, we're doing that, so it's going to hit them as the media agency partner that they think we are as well. So there's just ways and means to navigate it, I think, and communication's a big part of that.
I love that logic and communication. Using your sound logic, if you've got that overall strategy that you know you're working towards, you can logically make a decision if you need to. And communication is key. Yeah. Every team should be communicating and
100%
updating each other.
I feel like it's so obviously said, though, that so many people forget about it and just think that everybody's got telepathy and knows what's going on in the other department, and they don't unless you tell them, and probably have to remind them an annoying amount of times, but it's worthwhile doing.
It is hard when you're working on something. That's your like blinkers, isn't it? You just know that that's what I'm working on. Need to get this done. And I'm bad for it. Like, I just think that people can just hear my thoughts straight away, but you have to effectively communicate.
I think a good skill of anybody that works in the Amazon space, though, is to understand the problems that the operations guys are facing or the brand team's facing. You know, seasonal products, giving resource constraints to them and things like that. And like, how can you help them? Can you give them more notice or accept that things are going to be a bit more delayed, and just try to be that team player throughout your business? Does seem to win hearts and minds. If you do need a favour down the line, they'll remember that what you did for them. So there's that bit of give and take as well.
I think we've covered a lot, guys. I'm keeping an eye on the clock in the background, and we're pretty much bang on an hour. So I suppose time to wrap up. I think Travis, Emma, thank you very much for joining us. Ross, last but by no means least, our guest from a brand today from Pooch and Mutt, thank you very much for joining us. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, if you do need help with planning for 2026, please reach out to us. We work with, at the moment, 25 brands, all doing between £2 and £10 million on Amazon across seller, vendor, and some ads-only clients in there. So we've seen our fair share of it in terms of helping brands succeed in Amazon and plan for how to grow in the future. So if you do need help on that, please reach out to us at hello@ventureforge.co.uk or visit our website at ventureforge.co.uk to find out more. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure we'll see you all on the next episode. Thank you again for joining us, guys. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.